Hello and welcome to a new episode of Two Chicks Tell All. It's your girl Tay Tay here.
And Cece.
And I just wanted to give the friendly disclaimer, even though I don't really think we're going to be covering any of this in this episode, but I still just like to do it. Basically, if we talk about any people or places in this episode, the names will be changed just to protect identity and stuff like that.
Except for we are doing an episode tonight on like 80s and 90s stars, so we will be mentioning like their exact names because we're going to be talking about
that. That's okay because they're kind of in the public eye.
Yeah. So we're not kind of getting into stuff that you are going to recognize these people anyway. So
yeah. All right, so we kind of just chose some like different television shows and movies from the 80s and 90s. So Cece chose some TV shows and movies from the 80s, and I chose some TV shows and movies from the 90s because I guess like 90s was more my time and like 80s is like more of her time.
Right,
so we just decided to do it that way. Did you want me to go first?
Sure.
All right, so I kind of went with some TV shows that were like well known in the 90s, but they weren't like, I don't know, ones that you would think of like right off the top of your head is kind of what I went with because that's kind of how I am. So I chose Step by Step, which aired from 1991 to 1998. It was created by William Bickley, Robert Boyette, and Thomas Miller. So basically, just a little rundown of what that show's about in case anyone had forgotten or you just want a little refresher. So Frank Lambert and Carol Foster meet on vacation and they get married on the whim. They each have 3 children and blend their families together. And basically, it's just about them growing up and the different types of hilarious situations that they get into. Because, whenever you blend 2 families together, pretty much anything can happen.
Yeah. I mean, think back to like the Brady Bunch, which was way back in the day.
Yeah.
And Carol and Mike and their little blended family that they had.
So there was a lot of different characters in this TV show, but I kind of just picked the main ones because we had a lot going on here. So Patrick Duffy, who played Frank Lambert, so he went on to have a few guest roles on Bold and the Beautiful and NCIS, and he returned to 2014's revival of Dallas, which
I'm going to cover.
Yeah, all you old schoolers remember Dallas.
Woo.
So I didn't really find a whole lot in regards to acting for him, but here's what I did find. So he has 2 sons, Pedrick and Connor. They're both actors and directors. And he was with Carolyn Rosser for 43 years until she passed. So then he got with Linda Pearl, who was in Happy Days, in 2019. And he now runs a sourdough business called Duffy's Dough with Linda.
Nice.
So he totally took a whole different route in his life. But that was kind of interesting to read up on that. So then I have Suzanne Summers, who played Carol Foster Lambert, who played the wife. So she has an organic health and wellness line, which supports gut health now.
Yeah, she's way been
and she's also, she's been in and out in the workout industry.
Right, yeah.
Making all sorts of different workout tapes.
Yeah.
So she's been with Alan Hamill since 1977. And she has also had success. Well, I say she had success in the workout scene with Thigh Master. So she still looks incredible at age 75.
Right.
Still looks great. So Stacey Keenan, who played Dana Foster, who I believe was the oldest out of Carol's bunch. So she took a whole different route as well. She joined the LA County DA office as a deputy district attorney. And now she's an adjunct. Is it adjunct? Yeah. Adjunct professor of law at the Southwestern Law School.
Wow.
So she kind of did a whole nother route as well. So now we have Cody Lambert, who was actually like the nephew of Frank, who kind of like moved in and kind of just like created a whole lot of craziness. Played by Sasha Mitchell, who I think totally hot. Just saying, totally had the Mad Jones for Sasha Mitchell back in the day, but that's just me. So he found roles in TV shows such as JAG, ER, and NYPD Blue, and the Kickboxer series. Because, he had an incredible body, so he could pull that off. So he also is a welder and has helped with many construction projects in LA and Orange County. So he is also active in the convention circuit. And also, here we go. He was put in jail in 1997 because of spousal abuse. But it ended up that he was defending his kids from his alcoholic wife, is what they uncovered.
Oh, well, okay.
So there's a lot of different speculations with that, because I actually did a little bit of research on that. Some say that he was kind of an asshole in the situation and he really did the abuse. Some say that he was defending his kids. So I'm not sure. The jury's still out on that one.
Right, yeah.
But either way, the fact is that he was in jail in 1997, and that's why he had to leave Step by Step, actually. So JT Lambert was played by Brandon Call. He quit acting after Step by Step, and he was shot in 1996, but he recovered quickly. He currently works at a gas station owned by his parents. So once again, totally different route.
Yeah.
A lot of these people, at least in the Step by Step show, took a way different route in life. So it was kind of interesting to read that. Angela Watson, who played Karen Foster, she worked to reestablish connections with former friends, cast members, and family members after the show. She works for a nonprofit organization called CAST that helps coordinate attorneys and accountants for child performers.
Oh, nice.
Which the reason that she kind of put that together is actually because her parents took $2.5 million away from her.
Oh, well.
Whenever she was on the show. So I kind of, like that she put that together. That's good that she put some good with the bad. So that was good.
Right.
She now lives in Florida and she's married. So that's pretty much what she has going on. Not in acting anymore. Al Lambert was played by Christine Lakin. She starred in some TV movies. Mostly nowadays, she works on stage and in video games. So she does a lot of video game voiceovers now. Christopher Castle, who played Mark Foster, retired after Step by Step was canceled. Received a master's degree and works as a professor at Biola University in La Mirada, California. And he's teaching at Downey High School as a history teacher. Honestly, didn't find any of that surprising.
Right, yeah.
If we could think about his character on the show, I just don't find that surprising at all. So Brendan Lambert was played by Josh Byrne. He fell off the entertainment industry map after Step by Step. And his MySpace account that somebody dug up a while ago just states that he likes to play dress up. So I guess he got into that whole cosplay thing is what it sounds like. So that's kind of what I was able to uncover about the Step by Step cast and what they're up to now.
Cool. Interesting. That's funny how, where they end up now, what happened to them now. All right. So, excuse me. One of the shows that I decided to kind of dabble a little into and look up some info on was Cheers. And that's because I'm kind of watching it now. Like when I get into bed at night, I always turn on like the TV, set the sleep timer for 30 minutes. Rarely do I ever am awake when it goes off. But I went and watched the whole season of Frasier. So now I went back and I've started watching all of the Cheers episodes. So started back from the day. So obviously Ted Danson was like the main character of the show. And he was like an ex-baseball player that was a bartender that ended up buying the bar. And he was a womanizer, loved his women and everything.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And got involved with a couple of the female cast members on the show. And Kirstie Alley was one of the actors. She came on after Diane Chambers, who was played by Shelley Long, was like the original one. But he had kind of gotten in relationships with both of those and many other women throughout the show. But and it was funny because he's a recovering alcoholic, so he doesn't drink, but he owns the bar.
That's kind of
which is kind of interesting.
I agree with that.
So, but he of course went on to be in some other major movies and all. He did 3 Men and a Baby, which that was just a really cute super movie. Getting Even with Dad, which I don't think I ever really saw that movie.
It's pretty good. I've seen it.
But before Cheers, he was in Becker, and that was another one, and Damages, Bored to Death. I mean, these were shows I was like, I really don't remember watching some of those. And then obviously, as he got older and more recently, he was in CSI, which I did watch that because I was a huge CSI person. So when he premiered on there, I watched that. And, I thought he did pretty good, and then he went on to do another comedy after that called The Good Place, which only lasted, I think, about 2 seasons. And it said played himself on Curb Your Enthusiasm from 2000
that is such a funny
to
show.
2017. So he was married, divorced. He married Casey Coates in 92, and then they divorced after 15 years of marriage. And then this was something I did not know.
Okay.
Is he actually had a short-lived relationship with Whoopi Goldberg.
That's interesting.
And I was like, what?
Never
It's like,
would've
it's
guessed.
almost like I think I may recall that in the back of my brain.
Yeah.
But really didn't remember it until I read it. And I was like, maybe, but so, and then he ended up marrying Mary Steinberg, and she was in the book club, and they have 2 daughters now. So, and he pops up here and there in movies too. But Diane Chambers, who again, Shelley Long played her character, she ended up kind of going on to be in some other like movies, more or less. She played the role of Carol Brady in the Brady Bunch movie in 95, and then ended up doing the Very Brady sequel in 96. And then she's done other roles, like she's appeared in like Murphy Brown, Diagnostic Murder, Simple Rules, and Modern Family. She's done some appearances on. But it's funny because most of these people married and then they divorced. She married this Bruce Tyson in 1981, and then they ended up divorced in 2004. So, and then of course Woody Harrelson, who played Woody,
I love Woody.
yeah, the bartender actually in the series, he came on after they had the guy Coach that was played by Nicholas Castancino died, and he was only on there like 1 season. And so then Woody stepped in, Woody Harrelson, as the bartender. And it was funny because I was watching one the other night with him where he was getting married to the little ritzy girl. And yeah, I mean, he's just funny. Like he kind of has no clue. But he, out of all the people in the cast of that, went on to really appear in a lot of movies. I mean, he hasn't stopped. Like he's doing movies. Wildcats in 86, LA Story 91. He did White Men Can't Jump, which was a huge movie.
That was.
And ended up landing roles in Natural Born Killers, which he was actually nominated for a Lead Actor Academy Award for The People versus Larry Flint, which that was an incredible like role that he played in that movie. He went on to do like tons of movies: Wag of the Dog, Anger Management, No Country for Old Men, the Hunger Games series, 3 Billboards Outside of Emmington, Missouri, which I did see that, and that was a really, really good movie.
That sounds good.
And then Solo, a Star Wars movie in 2018. So, and he's always been an advocate, or outspoken environment and advocate for marijuana.
There you go.
So, and he's also a vegan, been a long-time vegan. So he actually lives in Maui now in Hawaii. So, nice. And then really Kelsey Grammer was the other one that kind of went on and played major roles and got in other movies. He played Dr. Fraser Crane, who ended up then doing the show Frasier. And that was on for about like 13 seasons. So that show went on to go for a long time.
Ones, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then he did Wings, which that show I remember watching in 92, and Just Shoot Me, which was another really cute series. And one interesting thing about him I didn't realize is he is the voice of Slideshow Bob on The Simpsons. And he's done that voice for literally like 17 years or so. if not longer. He's a Juilliard school trained performer, and he's done a lot of Broadway as well. So he went on to do lots of stuff. And again, somebody that still pops up here and there. So Kirstie Alley, of course, went on to do stuff, and bless her heart, just passed away in 2022 after battling cancer. And she came on as the business manager to manage the bar. So she went on to do some other roles, not as much, but she actually competed.
She's still iconic, though.
Right, yeah. And she was a spokesperson for Jenny Craig. She went on to do Dancing with the Stars, which actually I didn't realize another one of those actors competed on that show. I was trying to look to see. I know I wrote it down. But anyway, so yeah, she kind of had her up and down moments, but bless her heart, she ended up passing away. And she married Parker Stevenson. They were married for a while. They adopted 2 children. So Cliff Clavin, he was old Cliff the mail carrier Cliff. And he really didn't go on to do much more. Oh, he was the other one that competed on the Dancing with the Stars in 2007, which is kind of crazy.
Was that?
Cliff, the mailman.
Oh, okay.
I know, right? The Dancing with the Stars. And one thing interesting I found about him was he's an environmental activist as well. He owns a company called Eco Pack, which they produce eco-friendly packaging. And again, married and then divorced with 2 children. So, and the other ones that were on there were Norm. Norm was the Cliff's best friend who was always sitting at the bar. And when they all came in, they were like, Norm, and he kind of went on to do a little bit of stuff. He was in a couple shows, Teenage Witch, he had a reoccurring role in the show Clip, which I don't think I ever saw. But he actually performed as Edna Turnbald in Hairspray in 2007 and as Santa in the musical comedy Elf in 2010. So, interesting stuff about him. But yeah, so that was kind of where they are now with the Cheers gang and what they are doing. So that was one of the shows I decided to kind of pick up and cover a little bit.
All right, so the second TV show I chose was California Dreams, which ran from 1992 to 1997. So basically, it was about a group of teenagers who form a band, and it just kind of shows them growing up in their high school years. And the thing that I find the most interesting about this show is that they actually picked people who could sing and play instruments.
Oh, nice.
Like, that was one of the criteria that you had to meet in order to try out for the show. So I thought that was interesting. And also the same people who created Saved by the Bell created this show as well.
Oh, nice. I did watch that one, I must say.
Yes, it was a goodie. So the first person on the list is Brentley Gore, who played Matt Garrison. So he left the acting scene and focused more on music, and he produced a few albums and he DJs also. That's all that I was able to really find on him. That's kind of what he's been up to since he's been off the show. So Heidi Lenhart played Jenny Garrison, which Matt and Jenny were twins. If, nobody could remember, they were twins. So Heidi Lenhart worked in 90s TV and made-for-TV movies, and she had a 6-episode stint on 90210. She starred in the Au Pair series and now is focused on family. So that's what she's been up to. So Kelly Packard, who played Tiffany Smith, had roles in Baywatch and is now a stay-at-home mom, and she was on Celebrity Wife Swap as well. So this is kind of going a little bit quickly because I wasn't able to find an excessive amount of information whenever it comes to these stars, but I was able to find some. So William James Jones, who played Tony Wicks, he earned a degree in psychology and is a clinical director and psychologist with the Jones Psych Group. And he teaches at several universities and published a scholarly journal. So he kind of did something completely different than acting, which good for him that he went to school and kind
I was gonna say
of chase that. Like that's
the people that go to school and get an education.
Yeah, especially like a psychology degree like that. You have to be very like disciplined to get into that field. So all the more respect to him. So Michael Cade played Sly Wickle, and he acted in TV and film, and he now is a salesman. Yeah, I can't talk. Is now a sales manager for an info and tech services company. So he's done something completely different as well. So J. Anthony Frank, who played Jake Summers, worked for video game companies, and he was a voice actor for video games. He moved to Australia and he married somebody. So, good for him. Jenny Kwan, who played Sam Dewanshu, I guess is how you pronounce her last name. She was a voice actor and she was an advocate for like Asian actresses as well. So I thought that was interesting. The band reunited. So California Dreams reunited in 2010 for a little reunion show on Jimmy Fallon, and they played the theme song together. So I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
Another little tiny piece of info just to wrap it up. So J. Anthony Frank, his singing voice was played by Barry Coughing, who is a singer. So I guess what had happened there is Jay kind of had the part down, like he kind of had the bad boy part down and he could act the part, but his voice wasn't completely up to par. So they chose somebody else to sing for him. So that was kind of a little bit of an interesting piece of info on that. So what you got for us?
All right. So the other show that I dabbled in and that I mentioned earlier was Dallas. And I just kind of remember this being a show because my mother really liked the show, and who didn't kind of like a good soap opera, even though it was prime time. So those were considered dramas. So it was kind of like fall into that category. And it's interesting because it had 357 episodes, and it still remains one of the longest lasting full hour premiere TV dramas in American TV history. And then that back behind that is Gunsmoke with that one premiered actually earlier, way back in the day. But so this show was kind of based on like the family, that of course is like with all the money, it revolved around like an affluent feuding between this Texas family, the Ewings, and they own like an independent oil company, Ewing Oil, and a cattle ranch. Which was called like the marriages of Bobby Ewing and Pamela Barnes. And they were, of course, like enemies and all. And then as the show progressed, Bobby's elder brother, oil tycoon J.R. Ewing, became the show's like breakout character. And of course, he was the one where they had the episode where he was shot. And it was like, who shot JR? And I had the t-shirt back in the day. I tell you, I wish I still had it now, but I had that t-shirt, and actually what's funny is that episode, because I remember like yet again watching with my mom, and of course I can't find my piece of paper, but I had some info written down about that, which I don't know what I did with it. But anyway, it was like seriously watched by I think like 13 point something million people that episode. And dang. Mary, it was a character that played Mary in that was the one that ended up being the one that shot him, So, but anyway, so it ended in May of 1991, and JR was the only character that actually appeared in like every episode. So, and it was well known for like cliffhangers, which one of them was the Who Shot episode. And then there was another one that was like Who Done It. And then the one that I remember, which was crazy because it was like literally the whole season. You're watching it and you're thinking, what is this? Like it just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then that was the one where it's like Pam Ewing's character was actually like dreaming. It was like this whole dream series that she had. And no lie, literally took up like the whole season.
That's what I've heard.
So it's like,
Never
what
seen
the
that
heck?
show, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah. But so yeah, Larry Hagman played the character, and he appeared in some other roles and stuff here and there. And then Patrick Ewing is one that still kind of, you can see him popping up in roles here and there. And it actually won an Emmy Award in 1980 for Outstanding Lead Actress, Belle Geddes. And then the main character in that too, or one of the main characters, which it evolved around her too because it was her family, was Miss Ellie. And Miss Ellie was played by Barbara Geddes. And she was kind of sweet because she kind of reminded me of my grandmother. As a matter of fact, my nanny watched that show too. And there was this, she had this plant umbrella stand out on the, the big house that they had at the ranch at South Park. And my grandmother made the comment one time. She's like, "Oh, I really like that plant stand thing that Miss Ellie has on the show Dallas." Well, of course, because my grandmother was the best, we ended up surprising her when I was a Mother's Day or maybe her birthday, and we had gotten that plant stand somewhere or ordered it or something. I don't remember. So we got her out of the house and ended up going over there. A bunch of us met over there, dug the hole. It had to be concreted down in there. As a matter of fact, whenever she passed away and we had to sell the house, my dad, because my mom said, that's coming to the house. So my dad had to go dig out that concrete to get that post up. But we surprised her and brought her home, and that thing, we had plants all hanging out from it, because it holds a lot. It was really cute. Yeah. So anyway, but so in 2007, Dallas was included in Time's magazine list of 100 best TV shows of all time. So, it was kind of up there. I mean, like I said, it was one I really remember watching and always being into. But they did end up doing like a kind of revival series, continuing the story of the Ewing
mixed
family.
Reviews about it.
Yeah, and it didn't last. It premiered on like TNT in 2012, and it only ran for like 3 seasons. So
I don't know. Just don't mess with something that's already perfect.
I know, right? Exactly.
That's what I say.
Yeah. So, but Dallas debuted in 1978, and it was debuted actually as like a 5-part miniseries on CBS, and then it said the miniseries was actually created like as a pilot, and then by the time it was aired, they kind of increased it and had more like 5 episodes, but they were classifying it as like a mini series, and they really didn't have any plans to expand it. But then, and it was also in like a really late time slot. It came on like on Sundays at night, like 10 or something at night. And it when the mini series kind of premiered and the show premiered, it got popular enough to where it ended up going into 13 full seasons. So it aired from like, there's my paper. It aired from September 1978 to May 3rd, 1991. So, but yeah, it was basically known for its portrayal of wealth, sex, conflict, and power struggles throughout the series. The main premises is a long-time rivalry between the Ewings and the Barnes family, which came to head when the Barnes daughter, which was played by Victoria Princess, who actually did go on and do some other stuff too. She was Pamela, eloped with the youngest Ewing brother, which was Patrick Duffy. And I must say, they made a very cute couple on the show.
They probably did.
And that was the final episode, was basically them saying, "See ya, we're getting married, we're jetting off." So that was how it ended up ending. So, but yeah, it actually, if you're one for wanting to kind of watch something that was kind of really cool and had its twists and turns, check out an episode or 2 of Dallas. I'm sure you can find it streaming out there somewhere.
I'm sure, with all the streaming sites they have nowadays.
I know, right?
All right, so I picked Grace Under Fire as one of my shows. So it ran from 1993 to 1998, created by Chuck Lorre, which I believe was the same person that made Full House.
Right, yeah.
If I remember right. So it's basically about Grace, who's a recovering alcoholic, and she's now divorced from an abusive husband, and just her struggle to bring up 3 children on her own. which I think it was very well done, but it definitely had its moments of craziness, as I'm about to get into. So, Brett Butler, the show actually got canceled because of her struggles with alcoholism and substance abuse. So, that's why that show got canceled. So, kind of what she's been up to since that whole show ended, which she played Grace Kelly, like I said. The bank foreclosed on her farm, and now she's back in Hollywood working steadily in comedy and dramatic roles, such as How to Get Away with Murder and The Leftovers. So she's been doing some steady acting roles to make that money. In other words,
right.
Which, you know, good for her. She's trying to get back on her feet again, so much respect for her. So, Caitlin Collum, who played Libby Kelly, who was the daughter, she appeared in a cult film which was called Galaxy Quest and had roles in TV shows, which were which included Seventh Heaven, which was one of the ones, Malcolm in the Middle, and Eight Simple Rules. She hasn't had any acting credits since 2013, but she did appear in a horror movie called Jugface, which I've never heard of. Sounds like it might be a little B movie-ish.
Right, yeah, don't think I'll watch it.
So Dylan and Cole Sprouse actually played Patrick Kelly. So it was kind of like the Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen kind of thing, where you had like twins playing one role.
Yeah.
Which I love Dylan and Cole Sprouse. I think they're fabulous. So they had a lot of success in Disney shows and movies. So, you know, like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, some different Disney movies here and there. So in 2018, Cole appeared as Jughead Jones in Riverdale, and Dylan is a co-owner and brewmaster of All Wise Metairie in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. So Dylan now is a part owner of basically a brew house.
There you go.
So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, right.
So
I chose beer.
He chose beer over acting. So there you go.
Yeah.
So another thing that I found interesting about this TV show is they actually had 3 different actors throughout the whole show that played Quentin, who was like the middle child. So they had somebody who played him in the first episode, which I don't remember who that was. And then they had somebody who played him until 96. And then they had somebody who played him from 96 till the end. So John Paul Stewart. So he was the one who played Quentin from 93 to 96. So sources speculated that Stewart's parents pulled him out of the TV show after Brett Butler allegedly flashed him. Oh. Which you have to think, you know, you have to like put this into perspective is that John Paul Stewart was only about 12 years old whenever this whole thing happened and he was on the TV show. So I very much understand where his parents are coming from. So in March 2015, he invested in a vegan restaurant in Portland, Oregon called Harvest at the Bindery. And unfortunately, at age 33 in 2018, he passed away from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Dang, I was going to say, maybe he knows Woody since Woody's a vegan.
So rest in peace to John Paul Stewart. So then we have Sam Horrigan, who played Quentin from 96 to 1998. He starred in over 30 films and TV shows. Now he focuses on philanthropy and family, which is kind of interesting. So that's kind of the information that I've accrued on that TV show. There was a lot of drama and scandal with that one, if I remember right. You know, between Brett Butler struggling with substance abuse and alcohol abuse throughout the entire series. And, you know, with the whole flashing thing. There was just a lot of drama that happened during that time, apparently. So it was definitely kind of interesting to get into the thick of that situation and see what really happened. So, would you like to go?
All right. My last one I covered, this is one of my favorite movies. This was a movie, not really a show, was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Woohoo! The 1986 movie comedy that Matthew Broderick appeared in about him cutting school,
I love
playing
Ferris
sick,
Bueller.
playing sick and cutting school, and it was written and co-produced and directed by John Hughes and co-produced by Tom Jacobson, Matthew Broderick, Melissa Ars, Alan Rook, and then supporting
I love
actor
Alan
roles
Ruck.
by Jennifer Grey, Jerry Jones, Cindy Pickett, Eddie Machung, and Lynn Ward. So it basically tells the story of the high school kid who decides to skip school. It's like a month before graduation. So he puts his prank in to skip school, calls his best friend Cameron, who
Who acts like he's sick. Yeah.
really sick, and he's trying to tell him not to come out, or whatever, but convinces him to come out, and then he has to call the school and get the school to get his girlfriend out. And so they do this whole thing about playing like, her grandmother had died and she had to be pulled out of class. And a funny story about the secretary that with the big hair, there was one scene where she pulls the pencils out of her hair.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't really written in the script.
Oh my gosh.
That was because her hair was so high, and I guess they had been
Lord.
doing takes or whatever, and so she
Yeah.
had stashed these pencils in her hair or whatever. But yeah, it was like there she pulled the pencil out. But so they decide they're gonna enjoy the day. Convinces his friend Cameron they're gonna enjoy the day and go out and see the sights of Chicago. So they hit some cool places in Chicago. They go to actually the Art Institute of Chicago, which that was the first time that a movie was ever filmed like on the inside of that museum or institute, I guess you could call it. But yeah, so and then they go to Yankee Stadium, and I'm pretty sure that did I say Yankee Stadium? I'm not sure if that was actually the stadium or not. But and it's cool because they have a bunch of really cute parts in there and funny parts. And the parade was one of the big scenes that they did towards the end. And the day they did 2 days of filming with that, but the first day it actually was a parade going on, but they kind of sneaked their float into it. Like they didn't really register to have their float into it, and
Maybe
they
that's
just
what we should do.
drug this float. I know, right? Just drug the float into it. But the second day they filmed, they knew it wasn't like going to be like real life because it wasn't really a parade. So
Right.
they reached out to like local radio stations and stuff and put the word out, and they ended up having like 10,000 people showing up.
That's cool.
To basically kind of finish out and do the recording for that parade scene. And there was actually supposed to be like a scripted part for Matthew in there where he was doing like a more scripted dance move when they did the twist and shout thing, because he's kind of on the float. He's just kind of not really moving a whole lot. Well, there's one scene which I remember now after I read this, I thought that had to hurt, where he's trying to run to get back home before his parents get home, and he jumps over this big set of hedges, and he actually did hurt his ankle when he did that.
That doesn't surprise me.
So he couldn't really do the whole like scene where he was going to do a choreographed move, more or less. And then there were some other interesting things about that, like the scene where it shows the construction guys on the, working, and then the window guys on the window thing where they're cleaning the windows. That was actually going on that day at those buildings. That was not like anything that they like wrote into the script. So, and the music was playing so loud that everybody around where they were heard it,
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So anyway, if you've never seen that movie,
I love
it
that
really,
movie.
really, really is a cute movie. Couple interesting
It's
facts
very
that,
80s.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that I kind of, when I saw it again, I was like, oh, I think I did semi remember that. But when Broderick and Gray met and to do that movie, they actually started dating after that, and they got into a really bad car wreck, and the car that they hit, both the women in there like died, and so he ended up having to go and get some therapy for that at some point, and he was in the hospital for like 4 weeks after it happened. He had like fractured legs and a rib and a collapsed lung and a concussion. Gray didn't
Oh
suffer
wow.
as many injuries as, she did, but he actually ended up reaching out to the victim's family after that and admitted that he got therapy because of it as well. But they didn't last long. They broke up, in 88. And then he ended up marrying Sarah Jessica Parker, which they had the twins, so, and he's now, well, he obviously went on to do a lot of movies too.
Yes.
And she was in, she did Dirty Dancing and all that. And he actually went into Broadway, and did Broadway and everything. But they were a lot older when they did that movie, I think like he was 24. Cameron was actually like 29 when he was in the movie and played the
Alan
role.
Ruck,
And then Gray was 26. But it was funny because they did want Hughes wanted to do the scene where they did all the high school scenes were actually high school students. Like he wanted it to be like seemingly real, like it was a high school.
I bet that was kind of awkward for those.
Right, I know, right? Because they're older,
like pushing
having
30
to come
almost.
in. And then that high school actually did appear in another movie he directed, which was The Breakfast Club.
Oh, I love.
So that same high school had scenes in there, but it was funny because he really he kind of mirrored this movie a lot, somewhat about some of the things as a child he did, because the scene where it shows him in his bedroom, right before he's getting Cameron convinced to go out and go get him, he mirrored that room like his room was done when he was a teenager with all the posters and everything else, And then another cool fact about that I read was, they had the Ferrari in there, the nice car, the 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California. And he did have one to use for certain scenes, the first, where he goes into the garage and sees it and everything. But for the other scenes where they were like obviously racing through the city and, jumping the curbs and all that kind of stuff, they had like kind of just replicas of the car to use for that when the guys from the garage drove it out. And then when bless his heart, Cameron. And so when he remembered, when he told him about the mileage and he jumped into the pool, he really wanted to do that scene. But he was really like light. And, so like when you jump in water, you kind of float up. And so they actually tied like a weight belt and it was tied up under his pants so that when he hit the water, he would drop to the bottom.
Oh my.
So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool,
That is
so
cool.
But yeah, so like I said, that was just a really cool movie that I liked, and every time I kind of see it, if it's coming on, I might just catch parts of it or sit there and watch the whole thing again, because just a really cute movie, one back in my day. And then the only other thing I kind of had was I did kind of look up, like, because my era was basically the 80s, were like the best 80s classic TV shows. And it's crazy because I never watched this show, but 21 Jump Street was up there.
I know that was popular.
Yeah, but I don't really recall I ever really watched that one. The A-Team, yes, watch the A-Team. Love me some A-Team. That was actually from 83 to 87. And then Alf, which watch that one, with the Alf guy, the character, the Martian, that was a 4-year running series.
They had some interesting stuff back then.
Bosom Buddies, which, oh my God, my mom loved that show. That was another one we kind of watched together. Cagney and Lacey, Charlie's Angels, Cheers, which was one I kind of talked about a little bit, and which actually aired for a long time. That went on from like 82 to 93. And then Chips. Oh, I love me some Chips now, So those were kind of your top TV shows, more or less. And then your 80s movies was Blue Velvet, which I never saw that, but Tay did.
Yeah,
it's
an absolute train wreck.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to have a freaking clue what's going on at all during the movie.
Right.
But you'll be so engrossed in it because it's that crazy that you're going to want to finish it until the end. I'm just telling you.
I watched this one the other, oh my God, I wish I could remember now. I think it was called The Storm or the something. And it was, I like the very end of it when it ended. I said, I just wasted my time on that. Maybe I didn't get it, and I'll have to try to remember now.
Well,
So
Blue Velvet at the end, you'll just be thinking like, "What the hell did I just watch?"
see, that was this one because I'm like, what's really happening here? Like this guy basically got fired from his job, and he was freaked out about these storms that were coming in. They were having all these
I
tornadoes and
gotta watch
stuff.
Blue Velvet again.
So he made this shelter and dug this big ass hole, because he worked for this construction company. So he basically got a backhoe to come out, dig this big hole, plant a big train car, boxcar thing, and build a shelter down there. And sure enough, they did have a storm. They got out. They were fine and everything, but then all of a sudden it shows this scene at the end where they're like at this kind of beach house or something. And they're fine, but they go out on the porch and they're standing there and there's like 6 tornadoes coming at them. And they just kind of look at each other. Then it kind of ends. Okay, so anyway.
Yeah,
all right,
I got you, girl.
All right, so back to that. So Blade Runner was another top movie. E.T., which of course everybody
love E.T.
I swear, every time when I watch that movie, I still cry at the very end when he sticks his finger back and he touches his finger. And he's like, bye, and oh my gosh, just tugs at my little heartstrings. Oh, sweet, sweet movie. Okay. The Shining, which again, that was.
I love The Shining. That's a masterpiece.
Yeah, Shining. Ooh.
Masterpiece.
Yeah. Ghostbusters, Aliens, Raiders of the Ark, Raging Bull. That was kind of like the top movies back then in the 80s, which I saw a good bit of those. And I have to say, some of those I still. Again, saw Aliens not too long ago. That was on. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Always kind of click on that, and it's so excited because there's a new one of those coming out. Yay, Harrison Ford for still kicking it out on the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Go, go, go! Can't wait to see it.
Right.
All right, Tay, you wrapping us up, girl?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to talk about The Sandlot real quick because
I love that movie.
I feel like that was just like a big movie in the 90s.
Yes.
Just a very coming of age story. So I'm sure everybody knows what The Sandlot is about, but basically it just tells the story of a group of young baseball players during the summer of 1962.
Yep.
Such a cute movie.
It's such a cute movie.
So Mike Vitar, who played Benny the Jet Rodriguez, as we all know him. So since 2022, he's been a firefighter for the LA County Fire Department.
Nice.
So I'm sure he's a hot little firefighter because he was hot back in the day. So I'm sure that he's probably a hot little firefighter now. So Patrick Renna, who played Ham Porter, he's a movie director and has a recurring role on Netflix's hit Glow. And he also produced the independent film Boys of Summer. So Tom Gyrie, I guess is how you pronounce his name. He played Smalls, which we all love him.
Oh, yeah.
He's had small roles in TV and film such as Mystic River and Black Hawk Down. He currently resides in Trenton, New Jersey, and he balances work and family and acts when he can. So we might see him pop up somewhere.
Yep.
So I thought this was interesting. So they had a lot of firefighters coming out of The Sandlot. So Marty York, who played Yeah, he is an LA firefighter as well. So he does firefighting and he also acts as well. So I found that kind of interesting. So maybe Marty and Mike probably know each other is what I would think. They probably work for the same fire department.
Yeah.
Although LA is pretty big, so they might have that sectioned off into different sectors. So Chauncey Lepardi, who played Squints, which we all love him too, he reprised his role as Squint in The Sandlot Heading Home in 2007. And get this, he works as a weed salesman.
Oh my God.
Which is legal in California, just to let y'all know. So Victor DeMattia, who plays Timmy Timmons, took a hiatus and starred in the 2018 independent film Get Married or Die. And from 2017 to 2019, he hosted a podcast called Vic in a Box. So Tommy Repeat Timmons who is played by Shane Obinsky, I guess is how you pronounce his name. He owns a restaurant in Tampa, Florida, and basically he just acts when he can too. So it's good to see
Getting
that
the side jobs, picking up side jobs.
So it's good to see that they all kind of have found like their niche and what they're doing, and they still act. So we might see them from time to time. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, it's funny because you're like, there's actors that still pop up here and there from, like, you know, some of the other shows and older sitcoms. So it's good. You know, it's nice to see some of the ones around. It's like, I remember when they were in that movie or something.
Right?
Yeah. So, well, cool. Well, I mean, you know, I had fun going back down memory lane.
That was
visiting
fun.
some of the shows that we
like
to watch.
So, what's next week episode? What does next week's episode
we're getting
entail?
up on Valentine's Day, you know, that time, you know. So, we're going to just kind of call it our Valentine's Day episode, and we'll talk about some things. We'll kind of do some research into like some dating, like, you know, things to do for your date, maybe special dates you could go on with your date, or, you know, some history about Valentine's Day. Surely there's got to be some history. And,
you know, we got to keep up with the times.
Right,
so we're going to talk about Valentine's Day.
And I definitely say that even though flowers are beautiful, and I guess if your lady really likes them, then I say, you know, get her some flowers. But
they die after a couple days.
I will tell you some stories, because that was one of my little side jobs that I did at one point. Was my mom had helped out a florist in Colombia, called Deloach, because I'll give him a shout out. And I would, after her health got kind of bad and she couldn't really do it anymore, then I jumped in and started doing it. And so did a couple Mother's Day, but for Valentine's Day, I usually tried to show up and help them if I could.
Yeah.
And it would usually be like 2 or 3 days, depending on when that Valentine's Day hit. And I'm telling you what, I've never worked so hard being on my feet, because it was nonstop. You know, people coming in, picking up flower orders, and just the mass amounts of flowers. I had never seen so many flowers. Some of the funnest times I had, though, because the people that worked there were great people, and we laughed so hard. I would come home at nights with my side hurting because we would laugh so hard. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun stuff to do. But it was like I said, oh God, it was crazy. I never in my life, I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. But fun stuff. So yeah, we're just going to dab into a little about some Valentine's Day stuff. So,
which kind of, you know, talks about dating and relationships.
Yeah,
which is actually, we're going to get into a little bit of that.
Yep.
All right. So don't forget to email us with any suggestions or stories that you have to share to chickstellall@gmail.com. Chics is CHICS. Like chicks, but not like the baby chicks.
Yeah.
2 different chicks.
Chirp, chirp.
So, you know, and as always, like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah.
You know, our YouTube channel. We're trying to get out there. So
yeah, and look up Buddy the Lizard. That's my lizard.
Yes.
He's got some videos out there, and he did the craziest thing. He was shedding, and he actually pulled the skin right off of one of his like little legs and pulled it all the way off. And I was filming it, and then he like put it in his mouth and chomped down on it, and it kind of freaked me out. Like, luckily I didn't drop the S-bomb on there. I kind of said, oh shoot. But yeah, it was crazy. Kind of ate it. So I do have that video out there on YouTube. But Buddy the Lizard, you could probably find him. So,
and go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my personal YouTube channel as well.
That's right, Tay-Tay.
Budget Coffees with Taylor. So there we go. So yeah, don't forget to, you know, like, comment, subscribe, send us crazy stories. We love hearing from you. I know that we've had some viewer stories that have been really great. So we do appreciate those that have, you know, emailed us some crazy stuff, because we like to hear it.
Yep.
So I guess that's about all we have for this week, right there, Cece?
That's right.
All right.
I think that's it, girlie.
So 2 Chicks Tell All signing off, and we'll see you next week, or we'll hear from you next week.
Peace out.
Peace out.